Thank you very much for watching. Here we are on the Gold Coast, not too far up the M1, and there's not too much traffic this time of night as the One Nation leader here in Queensland, Steve Dickson, who joins us now from our Brisbane studio. I want to have a chat about a big idea that he put forward on the weekend. It's got an awful lot of coverage, and rightly so. Steve, good evening, mate, and it's a joy to be in Queensland.
G'day, Paul. How you going? And welcome to this great state again.
Beautiful part of the world. God's country, if you will, even if you don't believe. Now, my friend, let's have a chat about this idea that there's a project that a lot of people have an opinion about in southeast Queensland, Brisbane in particular, is a cross-river rail project. It's one that's multiple billions of dollars, but it's one that some government reports have said isn't needed for another 30 years. So you've decided to take that money and you're going to put it into other things, like, God forbid, a dam or coal-fired power. Explain how this works and how do you hope it comes about if you get more than yourself into the parliament at the end of the year?
Paul, if we end up with a balance of power, very clearly what we want to do is build a brand new coal-fired 1,000 megawatt coal-fired power station in North Queensland. We're actually going to build it next to a coal mine so you don't have to transport coal, but more so we're going to build some dams throughout the state. We're going to drought-proof southeast Queensland, build some road networks and get extremely good value for $5.4 billion. Alternatively, we can build an underground railway tunnel in Brisbane that we won't need until 2036, and I think that would be unconscionable. We need to create prosperity, we need to create jobs, and we need to create surety for the people of Queensland.
So give me an idea in money terms. Say, let's focus on coal-fired power here. Do you have an idea of where it goes in Queensland? Is it something for the north? Where would you be wanting to put it? How much does it cost? Is it 50-50 with the private enterprise? How does it actually come about? Because people's ears will prick up, but they need to hear some details.
Mate, it's pretty straightforward. We've got $5.4 billion to play with. We're going to put forward $1.5 billion, and we want to see the federal government match that dollar for dollar. We've heard from Malcolm Turnbull, we've heard from Tony Abbott, and we've heard from those people in Canberra. They want to supply cheap energy to the people of Queensland. At the moment, people are suffering up here. We've got 19,000 people who have had the lights turned off, and they're not coming back on any time soon. Another thing we've got to do in Queensland is also subsidise electricity, and by that point, what we would like to do is $1.3 billion a year is being clawed out of the energy providers and put in consolidated revenue. We want to push that back into the energy generators. We can drop power by 20% here in Queensland, and in turn that will get businesses from all over the country wanting to come to Queensland. So we'll have the generators to create the power, we'll have the right price mechanism so that people will have cheap, affordable power here in this state. And we've got to make it affordable for the mums and dads too, because I've got people living in my electorate who are burning candles at night, and that is just unconscionable in the year 2017.
Now, what about a dam? Where would you want to put that?
Well, we're going to build some dams in North Queensland. Townsville is a place that you and I know both very well. They need their dam. The Burdekin Dam needs to be risen now. We want to up the Barumba Dam here on the Sunshine Coast. That will build a dam the size of the biggest dam we have here in Queensland, and it will supply water forevermore. And this dam has got to be put in place, because without doing that, you don't create prosperity for the future. And that's Wivenhoe Dam I'm talking about. It is the biggest dam in Queensland at the moment. We can lift the wall of Barumba and create surety for hundreds of years into the future. And that's all people want. They want to be able to water their grass when they need to, but more so for business, you've got to be able to deliver that surety for them. Sure energy, sure water, and that means you've got a sure future.
And just finally, Steve, I've got to ask you about preferences, because we know how this went down in WA, whether the perception was fair or not. Perception can become reality. I read in The Australian on the weekend that you're going to take a different approach when it comes to the major parties and preferences of the Queensland election. What are you going to do?
Paul, we're not preferencing anybody at all. What we're going to do is, on a seat-by-seat basis, we'll look at where the best people are who can deliver the best outcomes for Queenslanders. I may be a little bit old-fashioned, but Queensland Parliament should be made up of people that actually care about Queenslanders. The two major parties, as far as I'm concerned, they've lost their way. I've actually decided not to run against a sitting Labor member in one of the seats in Brisbane, a lady by the name of Joanne Miller. She represents her people very well. She's gone out there on the front foot. She's the best prosecutor of the Labor Party as far as estimates are concerned. And she's also looking at black lung, and that's about miners that are being impacted by a terrible disease.
Good on you, Steve. If people want more info, it's up there on the Facebook page, and there's plenty more to talk about with you in the coming weeks and months. We wish you nothing but a strong hand and all the best to you when that election comes good. Thank you, mate.
Hey, Paul, appreciate your time. Cheap energy for Queensland.
Good man. I can see a bumper sticker somewhere. Steve Dickson there, leader of Queensland's One Nation.